Hello and welcome to the Friday Wrap-Up brought to you by David Gokhshtein and the Gokhshtein News Network. I am your host, Landy, and today is January 23rd, 2026, and we're looking at Bitcoin here on the weekly because the picture could not be clearer as to what the levels are, quite frankly. And the retest of specific levels on the way down and even the swing that we had last week on the way up. So here I have just kind of mapped out very quickly the uptrend that was broken and how Bitcoin kind of played the levels to the downside. First, locally, played to the most recent higher low with these candles over here, which is not marked. So we can go ahead and mark that as well and just make a complete mess of this chart because I think it's valuable to actually have a good idea of just how cleanly Bitcoin is playing the weeklies, because it is very, very important to understand what the criteria or conditions need to be in order for Bitcoin to make any headway back to the upside and or get continuation to the downside. So we can very clearly see the weekly uptrend here that was broken and kind of what's forming off of the back of that. So we had this clean uptrend off of the Q1 to Q2 transition. We had the April lows come in. Bitcoin worked its way up, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, and then trend break to the downside after trying to hold up between 107 and 108 here at this weekly higher low, which was a very important daily level as well. Of course, playing off of the weeklies over here. Now, the reason why I have the low side structure marked out here is because after passing through these lows, for instance, trying to hold 107 to 108, dip down after trying to maintain these highs over here and these highs over here, where did it go? 98 to 101, and then eventually dropping down to the next area, which was 93.5, which is this higher low structure over here. And then after losing that, it dipped down all the way to the next level, even through the weekly high right here at 86. Although on the daily it did respect it, and it even respected the swing low over here at 89. Once it lost that, it dropped through 86 all the way down to 80,500 or $80,000, depending on your chart, right to this weekly lower low. And now Bitcoin has been trapped in this weekly between 86 on closes and 93.5 essentially, and even got a swing up to retest this 98 to 101. Now, what could be forming here could be a trend reversal setup. So after a trend break like this, we need to be aware that a trend reversal could be forming right here, right now, that could result in a lower high. This would be the first lower high that we've seen in quite some time. Of course, we are coming off of lower lows, and yes, we have lower high swing structure, but this would be the first lower high close after putting in this bit of a low here with the very candle. Well, technically, we got it back here at the end of December coming into January. And for some, you're not going to see some even call low because it didn't get outside of the wicks here at 94.5. But in reality, it's kind of a consolidation low set to a lower high. So lower low, lower high on a close. And that would be the trend reversal setup. And that could be something that we're staring at right now. And what would that look like? Well, that would look like closes below $90,000, which would be this prior week's low, right at $90,003.46. So essentially $90,000. That would be your lower high trend reversal setup. Now, for me, I like the criteria of right around 89 to 89.2 as a little bit better indicator for that being an actionable lower high setup. As many of you know from Spaces events, I took a scalp at 98, and then I followed that up over the weekend, last weekend, with a filling out of that short position when it was failing to get above the point of control area around 96 to 96,500 on closes in lower term timeframes. So while I have taken, profits on that position, it is open because, Bitcoin very well could be in that trend reversal setup. How would it confirm? Well, there's a few scenarios for how this could play out. I know I've talked about them before, but I think it is worth talking about again. So if it does confirm the lower high here, how would it confirm that this is a trend reversal setup that's valid for continuation? Will it be anywhere technically closing below $87,000 or 86.8, but that's still inside of the weeklies. You'll have some that will get it confirmed at 83.5, but realistically, it confirms with continuation below 80,500 here. So that would be continuation, and that's where we can start looking at a possible move to the lows here at $80,000 to 78, possibly even under there to some of the swings here. The swing there at 76,555 that I pointed out prior. So that is valid. We can go ahead and make that like a zone within the weekly zone down there. And realistically, though, what do we have? We have a closing structure right here at 78. We have the swing low as well right there that was closed just slightly above. And this is actually a scenario that I would watch out for. If this does confirm the weekly lower high, it loses 89, starts to lose 86, and specifically the lows here at 83.8, 83.5 on the daily or so. We're really going to be looking at a retest of the low there at 80,500, right? Excuse me while I readjusted my chair here. That's where we could get a swing into that 78 to 80, maybe even lower to grab, 76, 76.5. Or, potentially filling out the whole zone down to the mid 70s here at the 74, 420, 69. Yes, I'll say it every time. But reality is if it closes back above that weekly area right here, or this weekly lower low over here, I would be aware that we could see a scenario playing out like this. So that is one potential scenario, is where we get higher low, equal low structure, even though there is a lower high in, but continuation would be closes below this low, right into the next zone of interest, mid 70s, and then likely lower 70s, 68 to 70 from there. Now, the other scenario would be seeing this play out in a higher low or equal low fashion where it closes above, sweeps the lows, closes above, and then bounces, right? And then comes back up to take out this high, right? That would be another scenario. That would be the bullish scenario, your W for winners or whiners, because most people will miss it if that was to occur. And reality is that it could also do something like not sweep the lows. It stays local and puts in some sort of a higher low structure. Even though it closes inside of the swing, if it closes inside of the swing, but still puts in a higher low than the low of this swing at 80,500, that'd be another bullish scenario. Because we now have a pretty clear local swing that could potentially turn into a lower high on a close. So that would be the criteria for the bullish scenario to play out. The bearish scenario would be you break below the low, it starts working its way lower, and then forms a true downtrend, right? So that's what I'd be paying attention to this weekend. Now, when coming down into the daily, it's pretty easy. Bitcoin's holding up around 89 to 90. Did get some slight closes. It is a broken trend on the daily, right? So if it puts in a low here and actually closes anywhere above, I would say right around 90,500, it would put in a lower low on the daily here. More likely going to make lower highs because if it puts in a lower low here, it's got to take out the high at 98 essentially to have this just become a deviation of trend. Otherwise, it's it can chop around, make lower highs, try to make higher lows, and then break that later. But if it does drop 86, I'd look to right around 83.5 to 86 at this weekly as the zone of interest. Anywhere below there, we're running 80, possibly down into 78, maybe even mid 70s down there. If it does work its way back above 93.5, take it 2K at a time. I know I've shown the chart many times, but 93 and a half to essentially 96, 96 to 98, 98 to 101. I know that's a $3,000 range up there to 101, but any closes above there, things do begin to change a little bit. Maybe it goes for a retest of like 105, but realistically it's 107 to 108. If you need any of those really detailed levels, I looked at them all on Wednesday, talked about them on Monday as well. So I'm kind of a broken record in that regard. But just wanted to show some of the weekly structure here. Bitcoin has been playing the weeklies just so beautifully. Deviations here and there, but testing towards these weeklies, either into them or just shy of them. And then, on the way down, deviate and then keep trying to hold it, come down to the next one, retest, come down to this one, test the swing, come down to the 86 and then down to the next one and then right back to the swing, hold 86 and then it's right back to the top side. Hold the bottom, swing out below, go right back to the top, right? And then hold the midline there, essentially midline at like 89 to 90. Keep swinging the top side, lose it, swing the bottom side, find it as resistance, and now just chopping around it. So realistically, it's playing the weeklies just beautifully. And that's kind of all I got for you right now is, be aware of upside moves that fail to break above 93.5, 94, because it's very likely that even if it gets an upside move from here, the more probable thing is like, even if it comes up in swings, is to get a lower high. And then you're looking for higher low, equal low structure, then to go and break that to get an uptrend there. Otherwise, you're looking for, if this was going to be the low and it doesn't go any lower and just put in swing structure locally and then head down, you're looking for, likely something like this, which would make it a deviation, right? Doesn't have to go that high, but anywhere above this high here at just shy of 98. Otherwise, it would be something like, come back down and then just head lower, which would be, a lower high to lower low, which would be your trend shift, which would be reflected on the weekly as well. So just be aware of those scenarios as you're watching price action. I'll check on a few things here on the daily real quick. It could try, as long as it's holding around 89 to 90, if it does break above, 92 locally, it's fair game. Above that 91 swing, then you've got kind of the 92 range up here. And then it's really 93.5 on the weekly to 94, and then 94, 96, 96 to 98, so on and so forth. Could be setting up for something like that, but there's no clear signal just yet. And we're headed into a weekend, which, typically rather we get lower liquidity. So let's go look at a few other things because we hit some targets. We hit some targets on commodities. Let's go look at gold. We got just shy of $5,000 at $49.89 on CFDs. I think, did we get, let me look here. Did we get, let's go back to Bitcoin for a second. No, those are the pairs paired against Bitcoin. Okay. So yeah, let's just go to commodities. We can do Oneida's here. Yeah. Did we pretty much the same areas, right? 49,990. Yeah, this is fine. Yeah. Essentially 49.35, on the close, 49.89, 49.90, essentially $5,000 hit. Again, above here, I'm looking for, 51 to 52 if it's going to get continuation. And we can see that the upper third standard deviation is right there at 51.31. And that's likely going to be around 52 coming into next week's open. So just be aware of that. And it's good for continuation anywhere above the last higher low. Swing at right around 45.50, 45.60 area. And really above 4,500, it's fine to keep plumbing the highs. On the weekly, nice big move up. You can see upper third is right there at the 51.31. Right there, the 2618. And realistically, it's probably going to open next week with the upper third somewhere around the 5,300 area. So that would kind of give room to 53, honestly. And again, that's all going to be on closes above 4,500. We got silver. Silver hitting 103, baby. Nice move on silver. So above 95, I was looking for, essentially 98 to 100, and then above there, looking to right around that 103 to 105 region. Got the close at 103.26 here. This looks good for continuation. This can actually run to 111 pretty easily if it wants to next week, maybe even 112. It's looking really strong. It's got a little bit of juice, but it's getting close to where it's going to need to see a correction. But this can, stay bullish longer than people can stay patient in many cases. So I'm still building out a short position on it. I will continue to build up to 105 and then stops are in. I mentioned this on a space. Now I am in a position where I'm very close to price action after the move up today. And, my risk will continue to get averaged up through 105. And then we'll see where things go. If I have to close it, I got to close it and just wait. I'm willing to take the risk on that one. Not really trying to catch a high. I do hold silver. And it's more of a trade move. Obviously, I've made a lot of money on the long side. So it's getting to the point where I am looking for a turnaround in silver, at least for a local correction. And I'm just positioning for that. I don't suggest that you do what I do. I'm using obviously profits from the long side to fill out the short side on this. And there's I don't have any, I'm not scared of price rising to go and fill out these positions, because I'd rather build out a swing. If I got to cut it and average in higher, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. It's more about the daily correcting, and it's getting a little up there, right? Where, could this continue to run to, 85 RSI? That would put us around 108. I'm still going to be safe. So I'm okay with that. And, this is, silver's a hot topic. Can it go much further? Absolutely. It can go much further. So can gold. They can keep ripping, and they can keep chugging along longer than the market can stay, rational about their moves to the upside, right? This is what happens when you're in higher term time frame expansion, right? Like monthly expansion to the upside. You can hit wild targets that people just can't even fathom. I've seen this with Bitcoin over the years. Obviously, then people start projecting way out there for where their price targets are. Weekly is giving room to about 109. That's going to open next week, probably be around the 110 to 112 region by the upper third. And again, locally above 88 to 90 for silver, can keep chugging to the upside here. So, and 88 to 90, it can keep plumbing the highs and higher. Anywhere below there, it's really going to be about, 80 to 83 and a half right here by the basis for the daily. But it wouldn't do too much. Yeah, it would confirm a high on any closes below 90. That's where we would probably see a correction to that, mid 80 region. And realistically, on longer term timeframes like the weekly for silver, there's nothing wrong below, mid 70s or even 70 in this case. It can continue even if the bands passed it. It can continue to test up into those bands as it passes, as they pass price, if it does correct in the near future. So just be aware of that. Let's see, traditional markets, Dow did recover, went all the way to basically put in a lower high. And we now have lower low, lower high structure here, but bounced nicely off the basis band. Now, a lot of people are going to say, it's cooked. We got that lower low, lower high, but if it's above the basis band and it recovers above the upper first at 49.4 or so, be aware of the 49.6 area right around the highs, because shortly thereafter, if it gets above there, it's probably going to elevate her up to 49.850, maybe even 50. So, and that's 50,000 in this case. So just understand that that is the name of the game. Otherwise, be aware below the basis band of the low around 49, 30, or I'm sorry, 48, 48.50 to around, 48.4 or so. If it drops 48.4, it's probably going to go for 48.1 to 48,000 pretty quickly. Looking at NASDAQ, a little bit of a different look on NASDAQ as it is just a lower low. Did not put in a high, but in this case, above the upper first here at 25.7. Look for the highs around 25.8 to 25.9. If it starts to push above there, we're looking for 26 to 26.2 or so around the highs here. And then above there, probably 26.4 to 5 pretty quickly on expansion. If it does put in a lower high next week, that would be confirmed on closes below 25.435. I would give it room to 25.4 right here at this swing. And if it does lose it, then, we're probably looking at things coming down to the 25K region again and slightly below. So we did have that target hit, right? And if it does drop that, we're looking for the mid 25s, 25.6 to 25.2, fair game from there. Obviously 25.5, 25.4. I'm sorry, 24.4. So 24.6 to 24.2. My apologies. With like 24.5 being an area of interest down there. SPY 689, 690 area, kind of post sold off after close. If it can recover above around 690 in this case, we're probably looking 693 to 696 being fair game again by the highs. Anywhere above there, we're looking 700 to 705. Anywhere below 685, look right down to 680. If that's lost, we're running this low at 676. This close open right here, essentially, to potentially 670 down here, 671 or so. If that is lost, we're looking down significantly lower for SPY. Probably dropping another 5-6 points off of 670, getting down to the mid 660, 665 in this zone to that 667 or so. That's kind of the name of the game here. The weeklies look a little bit like they are just mean reverting to the basis here and could just chug along, to be quite honest. There's nothing really saying that it can't after a move back to the basis here. It could continue just to melt sideways and up. So just be aware of that for SPY. Same for NASDAQ. Now we are in a compression, so anywhere above the 26.2, this would be expansion. We're looking significantly higher from the weekly standpoint if that were the case. Again, that's all born upon this, holding around the 25 on a close for the weekly. For SPY, it would be holding around 675 for the weekly. If those are dropped, that picture changes significantly for a correction, and honestly, Dow can correct all the way back to 47.5 and be fine. Wouldn't be fun during the week for those on the long side, but would not really mean too much outside of just a mean reversion on the weekly for macro price action, which, the monthlies are getting a little long in the tooth. Probably could use a correction from the weekly time frame a little bit further. But again, this could just chug along and keep grinding sideways and up until we see some significant price structure break on the weekly. It really doesn't bode well for the short side. And even then, a lot of this has been mean reversion. So yeah, as it relates to Bitcoin, above 89 to 90, look 92 to the weekly at 93.5, 94. Above there, we can start looking at the point of control at 96. Let's go ahead and actually clear a little bit of this up and then wrap this. Oh, I hit the wrong button. Whoopsies. Let's do this. All right. So normal weekly expansion zones. Above the weekly, 93.5 to 94. It's actually 93.5 to 94.5 now, but that would be right around the swings by the upper first. and we already kind of hit the lower second. So just be aware that if it doesn't get above around 94.5, even if it does on the daily get above 93.5, if it closes, it's a little bit stronger to test up towards 96. But I'd be very aware of rejections around 93 to 94.5, maybe even swings above there. I'd be very wary of with the downtrend or with the uptrend break and the lower low here that could result in a lower high that begets trend reversal setup to a downtrend. Anywhere below the most recent low, and we're looking at that lower second, that's expansion below that 87.150 here, down to 86, and potentially even roping in, 84.5 to that 83.5. So 86 to 83.5 being the zone down there on expansion to the downside. So just keep a close eye on it. Anywhere above 96, this could turn into a deviation. All right. If it just goes straight up and takes out that 98, that'd be, this would just be a deviation of this uptrend. And then, of course, we'd be looking at this zone of interest here between 98 and 101. But I'm going to talk to you on Monday. So, have a great weekend. And go ahead and like and share this out there if you did find this informative or helpful in any way. And I will talk to you on Monday for the Macro Monday video. And you have a wonderful weekend, wonderful morning, afternoon, and evening, no matter where you are in the world. Please trade safe. And, of course, as always, stay safe. With all that being said, Landy out. Take care.